Hello, friends. My name is Anderson Marchak,
And I'm Ricardo Segura.
and we are the Panel Bros. Welcome to the panel.
Talking movies, talking
Oh,
movies
yes. So we were riffing a little bit before we started up, and
for like
I
45 minutes,
yeah,
like a solid 45
I
minutes
think
before
I
we
just
start
need to start
recording.
hitting record, and we can just
Mhm.
go.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I
That's
think we're
all.
gonna go. So we both saw a movie this week,
Hmm.
and it sparked a lot of conversation with us during the week. And it's Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery by director Rian Johnson. So, spoiler alert, we're going to have a spoiler discussion here,
Hmm.
and it's going to lead into some discussions as far as the actors and projects they're doing and such. And then we can do what we do. So, Ricardo, I'll let you go first here. What are your thoughts on Glass Onion after seeing it?
I'll be honest with you. I thought Glass Onion was great.
Right.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I might be one of the few people that I've spoken to so far that like the sequel more than the first.
Okay.
And in film we know that's rare. Usually it's the first film that kind of brings it all, and the second one is just trying to capitalize on what the first movie did. And again, I've heard many people tell me like, "Oh, I thought Knives Out was better," which is fair. But I think that for me, I thoroughly enjoyed Glass Onion just a little bit more, and I was telling you earlier, I think because Rian Johnson, when he did Knives Out, I wasn't sure what type of mystery movie he was going to make. And for those of you who have seen Knives Out, you know that we learned very early on pretty much who is responsible for actually, killing our main victim, and the rest of the movie is just about piecing other things together. So it was a very different format for the
Right.
so-called who done it. So I had a better idea going into the sequel what to expect, and man, it was funny.
Hmm.
It was more funny than dramatic. There was some drama moments, but it was more funny, and I had a lot of fun with that. Daniel Craig is having a time of his life in this movie, man. Daniel Craig is just
Oh, yeah.
playing Benoit Blanc. Like, man, he's having so much. In my opinion, and you've seen both movies, I feel like he's having way more fun in the sequel than he did in the first movie.
Right.
Because in the first movie, he's playing the very stoic detective, if you will. And in the second movie, he's on vacation. So he's having a good time. He's kind of laid back while he's still trying to discover these things. And he's got crazy fashion in the sequel. His
Right.
style is on point. You know what I mean? Like they allowed him to be a little bit more open in the second movie, and I love that. And I thought the ensemble cast was great. I thought Edward Norton killed it. I thought Edward was great. Um, and Dave Bautista. We're gonna talk about Dave
Oh yeah, we're
Bautista
gonna talk about Batista a little bit today. Yeah.
because for those people who don't know, Dave Bautista obviously was a pro wrestler turned actor. And man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I love what he's doing. I love what he did with Glass Onion. I love the role that he chose. I love the roles that he's continuing to choose.
Right.
But Glass Onion for me, man, that was a solid watch. I was very happy with Glass Onion.
Yeah. I wonder if hmm, I need to look it up, but if because he's all freed up now from playing Bond, now he just wants to breathe a little bit. Not that a performance should tie you down while you're
Mhm.
doing another project, but it's almost like, hey, I'm gonna have some more fun now, you know?
Yeah, and it shows, and Bond is a good example. Again, when he plays James Bond, it's this very dramatic, action heavy. James Bond is almost like a superhero, and when he gets to play these
Right.
movies, he gets to just have fun. You know what I mean? And just be even over the top at times, and just be comical and ridiculous. And it was a blast to watch. I think
Yeah.
Rian Johnson has a really good thing going. I
Oh,
hope he makes more of these because Knives Out was great. And Glass Onion was also great. So I'm hoping he continues, and I look forward if he does because we get a new ensemble cast each time.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on the thing that draws me to these kinds of movies. Obviously, murder mysteries are fun. You
Mhm.
know, we look back to Clue being the
Yeah.
one that really put them on the map. And it's just this who done it, who did it, and why, the motive. And they take these ensemble casts and just make it work. I feel they weren't really murder mysteries, they were heist movies, but the Oceans movies,
Yes.
they tried to do it. And I think the first one was a hit both critically and financially, but then it just
Mhm.
kind of trailed off after that, you
Yeah.
know? So um, I will say this, I give Ron Johnson credit because not that it's never out of style for ensemble movies,
Hmm.
but he's getting, I mean, we usually say Disney money, but we need to start saying Netflix money now
Netflix.
because directors, man, they're just like, hey, we have this idea, and then Netflix says, here's the money, get your actors, get whatever you need to get, because they don't have to spend the money on marketing and
No,
advertisements and such. And I I haven't heard any stories about them getting involved with
no.
the directors and their visions. So
That's a topic in itself too, because Glass
right,
Onion, it got the treatment that we talked that you just mentioned. A lot of directors are going to Netflix because Netflix has almost become a safe space for directors,
right.
where they know that they're not going to have a bunch of executives on top of them and
Mm-hmm.
saying, well, we don't understand this, or why are you doing this? They just get to make the movie they want to make. I do wish, because as both of us were theater guys, right? We like to go to the theater, we like that experience. um
Right.
this was only in the theater what, a week.
I believe it was a week. Yeah.
It got a week in the theater. I wish it would have got a little bit longer. I think this would have probably done really well if it was over Christmas, because people always wanted to go to the theater during the holiday. But I won't be mad that it came to Netflix sooner, because then I got to see it a lot sooner. But I think that it, as much as I wanted it to be in a theater longer, so more and more people would go see it, I think the week window worked really well. For this one, because again, it's one of those movies where it's not a massive superhero movie. It's not a
Right.
massive IP movie. I don't know how much money this movie is going to make back. So having one week in theaters was fun, and then on Netflix, everybody was watching it. Everybody, like, as soon as it came on Netflix,
Of
you hit
course.
me up and you were like, "Hey, you've got to watch Glass Onion, watch it ASAP." And I was like, "I will watch it tomorrow," and I absolutely did.
Absolutely. So this is just one of those movies that for me, it just drew me in
Hmm.
immediately as I started watching it. And you're just like on high alert as far as when everybody gets to the island, and it's just like, well, what's Ed Norton doing here? He's almost kind of giving things away that like you can't trust him from the start, but
Hmm.
eventually just the characters just start getting fleshed out, and you you start seeing where things are going, and then there's this like big dramatic twist halfway through the movie, and then it's like just when you're like okay, I got this thing figured out, and then boom, we get this dramatic twist, and then we're doing like a time shift, and it was exciting. I enjoyed it.
It was good, and it takes a good minute before the mystery to start to even happen. Before the murder
Oh
mystery.
yeah, lots of
it
character
we're
work.
we're over an hour into this movie before anything really starts to hit the gas. And there are certain movies where that would lose a lot of people, but for me, the characters were so colorful
Right.
that I lost track of time, and I had so much fun just watching them. Like Kate Hudson plays Birdie J. Kate
Yeah,
Hudson was so funny in this movie,
she was.
and 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 Edward Norton and Dave Bautista and Catherine Hahn also. She played Claire. She had me dying as well. And what I love so much about the cast, and what Ryan seems to do, he did it in Knives Out too, is he likes to take these almost top one percenters and show how out of touch they are with society.
Right.
And it shows us how silly they can be and how foolish they are. And like these people all have massive amounts of money, they're all rich, right? But they're so out of touch with reality that they almost come off idiotic. And it's fun for us to watch and go, wow, like, these people have all this money, but they are dumb. And just watching them in this situation, trying to get them out of this murder mystery and whatnot, and seeing them trying to unravel it while they can barely comprehend anything is hilarious. So, like, even though it takes over an hour and something for the murder mystery to start, I just had a blast watching these characters interact with one another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, you kind of just touched on it a little bit. Let's go into, I guess, some of the performances that we enjoyed and
Hmm.
what we got out of them. Let's see here. Well, obviously we're gonna talk about Bautista in a little bit, so we'll get to him.
Yeah,
I thought Kate Hudson did a good job. She was fun. Um, I like Jessica Henwick and everything she does now.
she's so good. She's so good.
She's got these great supporting roles,
Hmm.
and it's just she's just looks like she's having a good time and everything. And she's so cool. She
She
just
is.
seems like a really cool person in these movies. Like She got her start in Game of Thrones, and then she had a couple things here and there, and then obviously the role of Colleen Wing in the Marvel Netflix universe. It's just like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, she did such a good job. Everyone thought that she should have been Iron Fist.
Yes. Now it was funny because I missed out on Iron Fist. I missed out on that.
Right.
That was one that just slipped through the cracks. I never caught it. So the first time I was really introduced to her was in the latest Matrix film,
Okay.
and she had the blue hair. And I remember watching her on screen, with Keanu Reeves and whatnot. And I was drawn to her. She has a great energy, and she's beautiful. She's
Yeah.
got great screen presence. She's a
She's
great
great.
actor.
Very cool.
So I was so happy to see her in this, and I was like, oh
Right.
my god, please just keep landing all these roles. I want to see more of you.
Yeah. I think you saw Underwater too. She was in
She is
Underwater.
underwater. You're
Yes,
absolutely
she
right.
was in that. Pretty cool
Yes,
role.
yes,
And then she was in The Gray Man. That was earlier this year too. She
yeah,
was in The Gray Man. So she's been in a few things, but probably the Matrix Resurrections might be her one of her best roles as far as that goes. So I like Jessica Henwick. Let's see who else in this cast. I was Janelle Monáe.
yep,
Let's talk about Janelle Monáe. Janelle Monáe doing a good job. Doing a
yep,
good job. I mean, she was the lead, obviously. So
yes,
and it's easy to for somebody to say, oh, well, I enjoyed this person. They were the lead. And you and I both know this as actors. It's hard to be the lead in a project
yeah. It is,
because
especially
everything,
in an ensemble. Like she's there with all
right.
these other actors, and she's got to carry. Not I don't want to say carry the movie because they're sharing the load, but she's the lead. You know what I mean? So like it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Yeah,
She,
absolutely.
and spoiler alert, spoiler alert. She plays two roles in the movie.
Yes, she does.
So just on that merit alone, I was like, man, she played two roles in this movie. She does great. I love her. She's great.
I'm looking at her resume here. She was in Moonlight, won the that movie won the Oscar for Best Picture.
Yes, it did.
She was in Hidden Figures. Trying to see. She was in Harriet. She's been in a
Yes.
few movies.
Yeah.
TV show
Yeah.
Homecoming, Antebellum. Like I haven't even seen all her stuff, and then this is probably her biggest role to date. I enjoyed her. She was great. And then halfway through the movie you get the twist, and
Hmm.
it's just so cool, and you get to find out she ends up playing two different characters. It's
Yeah.
yeah, really cool. You see a lot of talk over the years whenever Poison Ivy comes up, her name comes up.
Oh,
people think
okay.
about People think
Yeah.
about fan casting her as Poison Ivy because they want more people of color in superhero movies. So her name comes up. I believe her name came up for Black Canary before Black Canary got cast in Birds of
Oh,
Prey.
okay. Before Journey. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
Gaga might have been one of the lead names, but
Okay.
it kind of shifted to they wanted a woman of color for that
Okay.
role. So, and then there were rumors that while Margot Robbie was a producer
Hmm.
on Birds of Prey, and there were rumors that she may or may not have wanted to share the screen with Lady Gaga because of how big of a star Lady Gaga is.
Oh, and
I don't know.
ironically, look where we are now. Now she's also playing Harley Quinn.
Right now,
It's
not
just
right.
yeah.
So now, Lady, I don't know if that's true or not, but now Lady
Yeah,
Gaga
yeah.
is playing Harley in Joker too.
Yeah, yeah.
So
One way or another, whether it's true or not,
yeah,
it's kind of ironic
yeah,
because it's like, hey, now she's over
yeah.
here.
I also read that Margot was offered the job to voice Harley in the Harley Quinn show. Like Warner Brothers wanted her to play Harley everywhere.
And I could see it. I could see it. Now
Yeah.
I do love I mispronounce her name all the time. I need you
Kelly
to say it.
Kaylee Cuoco. I
Thank
think
you.
I mispronounce it too, but
Yeah, I mispronounce it all the time. She's fantastic. She's great as Harley.
yeah,
If they would have gotten Margot, just great because like you said, to be able to get her across all mediums would have been fantastic. And they're like, oh my god, you get Margot. But either way, it worked. It worked fine either way.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I think we're delaying the inevitable about talking about Batista, man. I think he was
I
our
want to talk about Dave
he was
Bautista.
like probably like our favorite in the whole
I
movie.
there I love Edward's performance. I love Daniel Gregg's performance.
Yeah,
I'm
Craig was great. He was
Craig,
awesome.
Dude, he's having the time of his life in this movie,
Yeah,
and it shows. And I've always said, if you're watching a film or a television show or any program and you feel like the actors are having a fun time, it translates and then you have fun watching them have fun.
yeah,
um he's fantastic in it. Great performance. Dave Bautista, I kind of watch him through a different lens because of his background,
right,
because he came from professional wrestling. And there's not many successful pro wrestlers turn actors. You could probably name them on the palm of your hand, you know what I mean, with all five fingers. um but watching Dave in this movie reminded me that he is open to any role. Like the idea of Dave Bautista playing a douchebag YouTuber who is one of those anti-feminist people
right,
online doing this and that, and having so much fun with it. I'm like, man, Dave, because we know this. There are certain people who have an image that they want to protect when they make movies. They were like, I only want to be seen as this. I want to be the hero. I want to be the action star. I want to be the lead. And Batista's like, no, I have no problem being in an ensemble cast with Rian Johnson as the director, where I'm just a supporting actor, but doing a damn good job at it. And
right,
Batista shows in every role that he takes, and this role's no different, that he's got range. Dave has
right,
range. There's scenes in this movie where he's comedic, and there's scenes in this movie where he's also taking on more of a dramatic role. You know what I mean? Emotional scenes. And I'm like, man, Batista. I, I've said it before. I'll say it here. My favorite pro wrestler turn actor at the moment, because of his range and the roles that he's choosing, is Dave Batista. That's my guy right there.
all right then, little bombshell.
Yeah, that's my dude. That's my
Little bit of
dude.
bombshell. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I remember when he was starting to get more roles
Mhm.
outside of playing Drax in the MCU. And I was mentioning it to somebody and I said, this is good news for Dave Bautista. This is good news for John Cena. I think these guys are going to be big stars. And the person was just like, yeah, but they'll never be The Rock. And I said, okay, Dwayne Johnson is who he is. He
Mhm.
became the modern day Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yes.
and he was able to differentiate himself. And, at the time, this is when, man, I want to say Cena was only doing like this was even before he was in the Fast and Furious movie. That was probably his biggest role. It was before he did Bumblebee. So he
Mhm.
was only doing like little small things here and there. And I said, he does have potential. I see the potential in him. And and the person was kind of downplaying, and he was texting me. He was just like, well, you know, you're expecting too much from these guys. They are what they are. And he said to me that all Batista will ever be is Drax, or a version of Drax. And I
That's
said,
unfortunate.
yeah, exactly. I said, see, you're only saying that right now. And then I think I brought up Blade Runner,
Oh,
and he said, yeah, but he was only in it for 5 minutes. And I'm just like, I said, see, you're kind of like not giving this guy a chance. He's trying to branch out. um I don't know if Hotel Artemis had come out at the time or not, but he was in
okay.
that too. And I was just like, don't sleep on these guys. But
Mhm.
I said, I really see Cena doing a lot of really cool things, but don't sleep on Batista. I was kind of just like, both these guys. Now Batista was great in this movie. I mean, we've been he's been getting our attention for some time now.
Mhm.
Let's see here. I think Army of the Dead, Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. That
Man, the funny thing, and you know this, and for people that don't know, is Batista turned down the role before he read the script because
right,
he didn't want to just be known as an action star. He didn't want to just be the guy with the big gun shooting zombies and whatnot. And he said, they gave it to him, say, hey, just read the script. Just read the
right,
script. And when he read it, he goes, oh, there's layers to this guy. There's emotional beats, there's storytelling. I want to do it. And that made me excited because it shows me the mindset that Batista has. Now, for the guy that you mentioned who said he'll never be The Rock. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? Because
Right.
The Rock is he can be a blockbuster movie star, but Dave has always made it apparent that he wanted to be a serious actor. Now, I'm not trying to take anything from Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but what I'm saying is The Rock seems like he's in the business of wanting to be a big movie star. He wants to make box
Right.
office money. He wants to do this. And Dave, on the other hand, goes, I just want to be a really good actor.
Right.
And I want to choose smart roles. I want to work with big directors. It's one of the things I said I wanted for Rock a few years ago. I said I want to see Rock working with big directors who can take Rock in different places. And Dave seems to be doing that. Dave was in one of the Bond films. He doesn't have any dialogue. You know what I mean? Like Dave didn't mind. He just wanted to be working with directors, other actors, and getting his craft better. He's got a new movie with M. Night Shyamalan coming out, Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah. Right.
And I can't wait. And
He looked decent in that trailer.
he looks great. He's got tears coming down, and he's not blowing anything up.
Right.
And I think that's what's great about Dave. So you said Blade Runner. He's only in that movie maybe like 5 to 11 minutes. It's somewhere in that mark. And I remember we talked about it. I said he's only in this movie for a very small amount of time, but he blew me away because it was at that moment. At that moment, I was like, he's got chops and he wants to flex them. And
Right.
he got look, dude, he got to work with Denis Villeneuve on Blade Runner 2049. Like we're
There's a
not gonna
hot
sit
name.
here, we're not gonna sit here and pretend that Denis Villeneuve's not one of the best directors going today. Like he's a
Correct.
top tier director, and Dave got to work with him, and I'm sure he's learning every bit along the way. I think Cena's fine. I think Cena's great. I think
Yeah.
Cena when he first started, he started doing mainly comedic roles. That's where he was flexing his chops,
Right.
raunchy comedies and whatnot. And then we got to see him, I think, in Peacemaker, where he got to do a little bit of like dramatic roles,
Right.
moments and stuff. It's like, okay, there's something there. I would like to see Rock go back to that, but we're not talking about The Rock right now. We're talking about
Nah.
Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Yeah.
Batista right now. So I'm very happy for Dave. I want to see him continue. And I can't wait to see his next few projects because every time I see him, man, he reminds me that he's in it. He's in it to win it, man. He's in it to be
Right.
an actor and be taken seriously. And I love that about him.
Yeah. I think it'll be good for him if that happens too, because you don't really think about a good actor when you see somebody with a lot of muscles like that.
Yeah.
Every now and then, like, well, back in the day, it was Stallone. Well, in
Hmm.
the 80s in general, a
Yeah.
lot of muscle bound guys. We have
Hmm.
Stallone, we have Schwarzenegger, we have basically the entire cast of Predator, everybody that looked like that. And you didn't really think about those guys as good actors. Now, since then, we've
Hmm.
gotten great performances from lots of guys that look like that. And
Hmm.
maybe Batista can bring that back around. With the exception of C on Apple, I think is that on Apple? It's the Momoa.
Yes. Apple TV.
I don't
Apple
watch
TV.
that show, and everyone tells me it's probably Momoa's best work,
Yeah.
and I haven't seen it yet. But maybe Batista and Jason Momoa a little bit too. They can kind of break that stigma of muscle bound guys not being good actors. They're just eye candy or just being grunts in movies and
Yeah.
such.
I mean, it took a
So,
really long time for us to see guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger take on dramatic roles.
right,
It wasn't until like much later, Stallone. I think when Stallone did Copland, it was like years after his action star started to fade a little bit with the box office. And
right.
he did Copland. He's got De Niro, he's got Ray Liotta, and everything, and he's in there, and you're like, Stallone's got chops, man, and it's good that we get to see that. And Dave's blessed, man, because he's a big guy, man. He's huge. He's got a lot of muscles on him,
Yeah,
and he's getting an opportunity to play roles that don't necessarily speak to like, oh, you have to be a muscle bound guy to play this role. He's just taking
right.
roles, and I love it.
Now, we don't know if he can do a Hispanic accent or not, but he's been rallying to play Bane. And if the DC, well, it was the DCEU at the time, I don't know if they ever want to cast him. And the funny thing is that would be an interesting casting decision because
Mhm.
when I hear David Bautista speak, I hear an intelligent man. I hear a
Yes.
man that he's speaking from the heart and he thinks about what he wants to say before he says it. And that's the thing about Bane isn't just muscles. Bane is intelligence too. And in the comic books, he figured out where the Batcave was, and that was how he was able to break Batman's back. And
Mhm.
I believe Nolan did that too in The Dark Knight Rises. He played up Bane's intelligence. It wasn't just a strong, muscular guy. So that's what made Bane a scary villain. And I don't know, maybe maybe Bautista can do it. You know,
Hey,
you never know.
hey, the if Batista ever had a shoe in, it's right now with James Gunn, who was just his
That's
director
right.
for three Guardians films.
You're
If
right.
Batista ever had a moment where he could finally get in there, it's right
Yeah,
now. We'll
I
see
don't know.
what happens.
I don't think Gunn would cast him as Bane though. That's the only thing. Gunn would cast him because from being friends with him, I don't think Gunn would cast him as Bane. So that's another talk altogether.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so I'm just looking at this cast here. If there's anybody else I wanted to
Again,
highlight,
I Kate Hudson cracked me up, man. She was great in this movie. I thought Kate was great.
yeah.
She had me rolling, man. The sweatshop joke
Oh
where
yeah, yeah.
the kids are working at a sweatshop and she goes, "That's perfect." And she was like, "Please tell me that you don't think a sweatshop is where they make sweatpants." And she was like, I didn't know. I didn't know."
I'm sorry. How was I supposed to know that? You
She's
know.
and again, it plays Rian Johnson loves to do this. He likes to make those people look very dumb because a lot of them are dumb in real life. You know what I mean? We're talking about social media influencers and stuff like that.
Right.
And a lot of times they're playing personas and characters. And a lot of the times they're out of touch with reality a little bit. So I like that Ryan gets to do that. Ryan kind of found his niche. You know what I mean? He kind of found it. Like we're not going to forget that he did the Star Wars.
Right.
Which one was it? I'm so sorry. The one in the middle.
Last
Star
Jedi.
Wars.
Was it the Last Jedi? It was the second one.
It was the second one. And I'm drawing a blank and I feel so stupid because I love Star Wars. It's not the Rise of Skywalker, is it?
No, it was the Last Jedi. It was the second one. It was the middle one.
The Last Jedi. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So he's done Star Wars. He's done a big, big, big property. He's done a
Right.
massive IP, and it feels like he came back and he said, you know what, I want to go back to doing these types of movies, which is great because a lot of times when you do a massive IP film, sometimes you're tapped to do other massive IPs. People want to grab you and do this and do that. You know what I mean? I remember he did Looper. I love Looper.
See, Looper is what got him Star Wars because people really enjoyed Looper.
I loved Looper. And he had Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who he's worked with before. I don't know if you know this. You know the gong sound in Glass Onion? Remember when they're on the beach? That's Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh,
Did
that's
you know
great.
that?
I did not know that.
In the credits, it says gong sound and it says Joseph
Oh, see, I
Gordon-Levitt.
didn't even look at that. That's funny.
So it's a super funny thing that they have that they just work together. And he was like, "Hey, I need you to make a gong." He's like, "All right, I got you." And he did it and he put it in the movie.
That's great.
So Looper was awesome. So I want to see him do more things like that, like more original things. So now that he kind of has this murder mystery, I hope we get a trilogy at least. I hope at least we get a trilogy because I don't know about you. Why is Ethan Hawke in this movie? He's in it for 5 seconds. And I'm like, Ethan Hawke is in this.
I remember
movie.
that. Yeah.
And I'm like, are we setting up a third movie?
I saw the long hair and I said, hold up.
he was, and he's just giving people the pills because they address the pandemic.
Right. And
So
by the way,
the
we never find out what happens with that.
Nope. Nothing.
It's like,
nothing.
does this mean I'm vaccinated now? What does this mean?
Like,
you know, like, don't worry, it means you're good.
The one of the funniest bits is how everybody has a hard time with it. It hits the back of their throat and they kind of like cough. But Daniel Craig as Blanc, he just kind of takes it like it's nothing, which many people have, try to theorize that because, he plays a gay man in the movie. And they're like, oh, like he has no problem with these muscles back here, and that it was a funny joke that they had put into the movie.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, that's hilarious if that's exactly what he intended, because he just took it no problem. I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty funny. I just took it as him always being smooth. Like,
yeah, he's not gonna show his weakness. Yeah.
No, he's just like, that was something. And I was like, yeah, but Rian Johnson, I want to see more.
I was disappointed that didn't go anywhere because side note, I think it's great that they included the pandemic. It's the world changed in 2020 and that's where we are now.
Did you see Kate with the mask that was just mesh?
Yes. He totally saw that on social media. He said, I have to put that in my movie.
I'm telling you, he was poking at these people, and I was like, "That's so funny."
And some people had the mask like halfway, and like
they were talking, and it was just down here, and I was like,
"It's so funny. It's real life." You know,
And
that's real life.
I ironically, the people that had the mask on properly was Daniel Craig. Um, like anybody we were fully like they're awesome. They were the ones that were fully accurate and whatnot.
That's great.
Batista showed up, didn't have one on at all.
Right.
And this girl didn't have one on at all. It was so
Because
funny.
that's the
Yep.
type of person that wouldn't have one on.
That they were playing it, and I love how
It's the
they
little
played it, all
things,
that.
you know,
Yeah,
that's what
it
makes a
was good.
fun movie.
It was good.
So, but I am curious about that though, because it's like, what does that mean? Like, did you vaccinate me just by giving me a spray?
They
Like,
never address
I
it
want to
again.
know what happened there. You know,
They
that's the
never
real
address it.
mystery.
Yeah,
The mystery isn't who done it.
because it was like, wait a minute, like obviously Edward Norton is playing this multi-billionaire, and I
Right.
was like, has he discovered something? Does he have a way that the pill is now in vaccine form in the movie? Like, what is
Right.
it? Because he goes, oh, in order to come to this island, at first I thought it was a tracking chip. I was like, oh, is it tracking? But then they're
Right.
doing the whole pandemic, and I was like, oh, he probably get. I was like, man, this guy's so rich. He made a vaccine pill for him. That's what he did. I was like, that's what he did. That's what he did.
Right.
But they never touch on it. They
I'm so
never
glad
touch
you
on
brought
it.
up Ethan Hawke because I forgot about that. And when I
He's
saw him, I obviously he wasn't in the trailers. And it's just
no.
like, okay, well, so fresh off of the Black Phone and Moon Knight, where
Mm-hmm.
he did a great job in both projects. It's like, okay, we're gonna see him again, and that's like, nope, you're never gonna see me again.
He literally just gives them all the pill. They
Yeah,
get on the
that was
boat.
great.
That's it. He's
I
not
love those
secure.
kinds of roles though. That's
He's
fun.
he's not. I thought he was going to be security because I thought that was going to be him in the rest of the movie. He's not in the
Yeah.
movie anymore. So I was okay. What happened? I was like, did Ethan? Was he free and he just wanted to work with Ryan and goes, hey, I'll play the smallest role. It doesn't matter. I was like, or is Ryan building his own Knives Out kind of universe? Like, is the third movie
Right.
going to have Ethan Hawke in it? I don't know. I love Ethan, so I'll watch him in anything.
I
So,
would have liked to have seen somebody besides Benoit from the first movie.
oh,
That would have been cool.
oh man, I forgot his name. Hold on, I'll let you know right now. There is
Yeah.
someone else from the first movie, but he plays a different character.
Oh, I
What's
missed
his
that.
name? Noah Segan. He's in the first movie, as well, I believe. I
Okay.
believe he is.
I'm looking at him.
Going, yeah. Let me pull him up. Yeah, he's in Knives Out. He's one of the troopers in Knives Out.
Oh, okay.
He plays the stoner in Glass Onion. He's only in the movie for like maybe 35 seconds. So
Oh,
that was
that's who
pretty,
that is. Oh,
that's who it is,
he had the
yeah.
wig and the facial hair on. I
Yep, he
didn't
had the long
recognize
hair,
him.
facial hair, and he's just in there to be in there. There's no other reason. Like they just walk
Yeah.
into the room and he's there. He goes, "Oh, hey, you want to hang out?" And they just
That's a
leave.
classic character though, the stoner that's only in it for 5 minutes. Like,
Yeah, like it's like, "Oh, I'm here. I'm here." We can't have this movie take place on an island and not have a stoner just hanging out in the middle of this murder mystery, whatnot. So yeah, he's in it, and he was in Looper as well. Ryan is
okay.
one of those directors that's like, "Hey, we'll do stuff. We'll just keep doing stuff,"
I
which
need
I
to
think is
watch
really
that
really cool.
again because a lot of sci-fi people really
I love
hail
Looper.
Looper as, and at the time it just really didn't vibe with me.
Hmm.
Uh, and I get it because JGL was doing, he had to essentially do an impression of Bruce Willis because he's playing the
Hmm.
younger version of him. And I just feel like I just didn't really get it at the time. I might have seen it one other time besides that, but if not for the reception of Looper, Johnson would have not gotten Star Wars. So,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it's, and
He go ahead.
yeah. And it's funny you say you want him to keep doing this. I think he wants to come back. He wants to do his own trilogy.
Yeah, I keep hearing that too.
You know, he feels like he wants to right the wrongs of how the reception of
Hmm.
um the Last Jedi was. And I heard him on a radio interview the other day, and he's talking about how he wants to do it again. He wants to keep making these movies too, though. So keep keep throwing that cash at him, Netflix. We want to see him. You know.
After watching these two movies, after watching Looper and after watching The Last Jedi, I think Ryan really loves surprising you, shocking you,
Yeah.
not giving you what you thought you were gonna get. Because when I saw Looper, I felt the same way. The trailers almost insinuated that the older Bruce and the younger Bruce were gonna work together. And when you watch Looper, that's not what happens at all.
Right.
It's a completely different movie. And I remember watching at the theaters and thinking, this is nothing like what I thought it was going to be. It's not what I expected. The Last Jedi, same thing. He took what a previous director made and goes, everyone's expecting this. Guess what? I'm gonna flip it. I didn't agree with it. That's my personal feelings. I wasn't a big fan, but I understood why he did it. He goes, no, I'm going to change it up. This is what they think is going to happen. I'm going to shock them. Boom. And he shocks him, literally throws a lightsaber.
Right.
Um, and he did it with Knives Out. And Knives Out, you expect it to be like, hey, there's a murder. The whole movie, we're in this one location. We're going to figure out who the movie is. And no, it was much more than that. Same thing with Glass Onion. It was much more than that. It wasn't so much about saying, I wonder who did it. It was much more about like the stories of all these characters coming together and what they mean. And I think
Right.
Ryan is one of those directors where that's his thing. He wants to constantly surprise you and shock you, not give you what you think you expected. And I understand him wanting to possibly want to do another Star Wars trilogy. I've read that as well. And it's kind of like, hey, look, I was working with a property that was created years and years ago with
Right.
George Lucas, and now under Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams. So I'm taking something that was essentially someone else's. So Star Wars, while it's a massive IP, he can create new characters. He can create new stories. And if he wants to do that, I'm like, okay, let's see what he got.
Yeah, absolutely. So halfway through the movie, there's a twist.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing full on spoiler talk, guys, if you haven't
Yeah.
realized this by now. But so we find out that Norton's character, he's the one that did it, Miles
Mm-hmm.
Braun. And but we need to find out why.
Yeah.
So, Blanc says, well, he's the one that killed um Janelle Monáe's character, and
Mm-hmm.
then we're like, hold up, and then they show what happened, and we find out she's playing her own twin sister.
Yeah.
So that's a twist.
It was a fun twist because like obviously you start seeing these flashbacks and you're not really sure where we're going, and then you realize that the Monet character is killed off, and you're relatively confused because you see her walking around the island, and then you find out she has a twin sister, and she also has she plays with a different accent. So she's doing two accents in the film. She's playing two completely different characters. And I was telling you about this earlier, when you said it was very novella. For people that don't know, novella, soap opera,
Yeah.
the twin sister, you know what I mean?
Right. The evil
Like
twin. Well, not the evil twin,
not the
but the twin,
evil,
but the twin.
but like we were talking about earlier when I brought it up, like that could have been something that if it was done in another film that wasn't as sharp, um, that might have turned people off. It would be like,
Right.
oh, that's cheap. You know what I mean? Like how
Right.
cheap they got a twin sister. Like just we just have to accept that. So now, what do we know what's real, what's not? But for me, I went right along with it because again, the characters were good and the script was sharp. So when I found out there was a twin, I kind of like sat up a little bit in my chair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we got a twin. Okay. So how do we get here? So I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I like it when something like that happens and you get more invested in the movie, because at that point we're just kind of like, I don't want to say going through the motions, but we're getting a lot of character development and
Yeah.
character arcs, and we're trying to see what's happening here. Why is Andy acting the way she's acting, and why is everyone acting all weird? And then we do find out eventually why we got there, but to find out that it's her twin Helen. And I liked that. I don't know whose decision it was, but Helen had a different accent
Yeah.
than her sister Andy. We find out Andy supposedly took her own life, but Helen doesn't believe it.
Mhm.
So she hires Blanc to figure it out. So I really enjoyed those flashbacks with her and Blanc, and it was really cool to just see whenever she made that shift acting wise,
Yeah.
going from Helen to Andy and back to to Helen again. And I want to say maybe I'm gonna assume Braun knew who it was, or
I don't know
because when he
because
saw her, he was like, "I'm surprised to see you, Andy," and it's just like she didn't tell anybody she had a sister. So did he think that she survived the thing, or
I want to assume that he thinks she survived because remember it never made it to the press, like so they
right?
left her body there, and just assume she died, but there was never a report. There was no police report. There was nothing in the news. They hadn't just heard anything. So he's waiting, like he brings them all to the island so that way no one finds out when the news does break. And then unbeknownst to him, instead of the news breaking, she shows up on the island. So like
Right.
you see him, and I remember in the beginning of the movie when he sees her, his eyes, you can see something's wrong. And I thought, oh man, they had a bad fallout. But in reality, he's like, I thought I killed you,
Right.
and here you are. And again, I dug it. Again, I love the accent too. I wouldn't be surprised if like if it was an actor idea, like if she was like, hey, what about this and
Right.
whatnot. Or if it was Ryan. It was a smart movie either way, because to watch her go in and out, right? To go
Right.
in and out from Andy to the sister and whatnot and play. And that's not easy to do, because Andy almost came off very hard, as like a very hard stoic character,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
she was the complete opposite. And to see her go in and out of that was fun. And I also thought it was fun too, because you realize that Benoit is in on it. So like not only is
Right.
Benoit misdirecting Edward Norton's character, but we the audience are being misdirected, so we're, when Benoit's like, wait, I thought I was invited, and you're like, oh, was he not invited? And then you realize he's just playing along because he's trying to solve another case in the middle of this case that's starting out. It was super fun, super fun.
It's one of those things where on the repeat watch, you're going to go back and see, do they give it away a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because now we're watching it knowing that she's not Andy. So now we need to see, is Braun playing it a certain way? Is Bautista's character playing it a certain way? Who's playing it differently? That's like it's a little throwback here. One of the original biggest twists ever, The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
So it's like you watch it a second time, and who's playing it knowing about Bruce Willis's character,
Mm-hmm.
knowing the big secret about his character there. So it's really interesting thing as far as that goes.
I did read that some people mentioned that they've watched it 3 times and that they do get a different experience after realizing the twists and turns, that they did notice little things. So I might want to watch it a second time to see if I notice, like, oh yeah, look how she's acting here. It is a little different. Okay. Like I want to see it for that reason too.
And Toni Collette's very talented, so I wouldn't doubt that when she's delivering her lines, that
Toni Collette?
yeah. Oh, I thought we were talking about Sixth Sense still.
Oh no, I'm
Sorry.
sorry. No. I was talking about Glass Onion. Toni Collette, man, that's a conversation for another day.
Yes, it
Because
is.
Toni Collette is magnificent.
It's great. Hereditary.
Yeah, but people have said while watching Glass Onion, when they watch it a second and third time,
Okay.
that they noticed.
Oh wow!
little
Excuse
things.
me. We have this free time to watch this movie that just came out twice, 3 times.
So I was like, oh,
Wow.
you know what? It is on Netflix. I said I'll watch it again and see if I pick
Fair.
something up. So I'll see if there's other things too that I notice.
That'll be a cool thing to check out. I'm looking through here.
I just love that Ethan Hawke's name in the movie is Efficient Man. That's his name according to IMDb. He's the efficient man. Again,
that's funny.
I don't know why he's in it, but I'm glad that he is, and I take it. I also love, for the Among Us fans, I love that Benoit was playing Among Us in the beginning. Do you remember in the beginning he's in the bathtub, he's playing Among Us, and he's playing with a bunch of celebrities, and I was like, bro, this is it's I don't know, it's just fun. It's just fun. The movie is fun. I think that that's the best way for me to describe it. And fun is different to a lot of different people, right? Like sometimes fun can be blockbusters and whatnot. This was fun. This felt like a really, really, really fun time for the actors and everyone involved. So again, I had a blast with it.
When they were doing the flashbacks to show us why Andy would be upset with everybody else, and then it led to present day. At any point, did you start thinking that somebody else was the killer besides Braun?
No.
Did anything ever throw you off and say,
Mm-mm.
well, maybe Bautista had something to do with it, or maybe somebody else?
No, and the only reason is because everyone came off like an idiot. Like everyone was latching on to Braun, right? Like they mentioned in the movie that everyone needs Braun alive. In order for their careers to do well,
right,
they need him alive. So I was like, okay, so when they do the misdirection with the glass and his name's on it, I was like, no one else would want you dead. That doesn't make any sense. I was like, I don't understand that. And then with wanting Andy dead, I was like, well, they all moved on. And I was like, so there's really nothing that they would feel the need they would have to kill her for.
Right.
And I said, but in my mind, I was like, the only one that would be affected by Andy is Braun, because that whole napkin, they kept bringing up the napkin, the napkin, the napkin, the napkin.
Right.
So there was never a point where I was like, there's someone else. I was like, no, it's Braun, it's Braun. And the movie makes it a joke. They were like, oh, like it's such a dumb plan. And
Right.
Kate Hudson's like, oh, it's so dumb that it's genius. He goes, no, it's just plain
No, it's
dumb.
plain dumb. Yeah, I saw that float around. Yeah, no,
And
it's
it's
just
so
dumb.
funny because ironically it is like it's dumb. Like we're not, again, we're not really misled in terms of like who would be the one to do it. And again, it doesn't seem like that was Ryan's main goal, was to make you question who's doing what, but just giving you a story of these characters, how they come together and why they do the things that they do, as opposed to you worrying about who did it. It's more about why they did it.
I had my suspicions about Birdie because they kept focusing with her relationship with Peg,
Mhm.
and almost feels like Peg knows too much.
Okay.
So to protect Birdie, obviously, because she's
Mhm.
always protecting her over something,
Yes.
idiotic decisions that she's making.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say that I felt like Birdie did it, but it was just like maybe Birdie knows something, or maybe
Mhm.
Birdie did something, and Peg's kind of trying to navigate the whole situation. I don't know. And also, it was almost like, is Birdie acting stupid? Is it an act?
Could have been. It
you
could have
know,
been.
is she just acting this way?
She could have been pulling the Paris Hilton or Jessica Simpson, because if you remember, like those two people on TV came across very dumb, but in real
Right.
life, it
No.
was just a character.
Right.
It was just a
Right.
character, and that very well could have been the case. I assume Birdie had nothing to do with it, because like they took her cell phone away, they did this. She wasn't responsible, so I'm like, there's no way she's gonna be able to do all this and be able to just keep it all in. But hey, absolutely could have been possible.
Yeah. So when we find out that Braun is the one that killed, I keep saying Batista's character. What's it? Duke.
Duke, Duke,
We got to use the character name.
Duke.
When he killed Duke, and what was your feelings at the time when Blanc kind of revealed that at the very end?
Well, when Duke died, my first reaction was, again, I applauded Bautista for being like, "Hey, I'll take this role. You want to kill me off? Kill me off." You
Right.
know what I mean? Again, we're so used to certain guys like, "No, I have it in my contract that I can't lose a fight. I have it in my contract that I can't be made to look bad." And he's like, "No, no." So when he was the one that bit the bullet, I was like, Batista, man, he just gets it. He just
he
gets it.
he did the
He
Drew
just gets it.
Barrymore and Scream.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
not the first 5 minutes, but
No, he
pretty darn
gets it.
close.
He gets it. I was like, all right, Dave, you get it. I like you, Dave.
Yeah. Well, whenever the first one killed off, people will remember that.
Now,
In an ensemble cast like this anyway.
yeah. So when Braun takes him out, I honestly thought I believed Braun the first time. The very first time when he says, "Oh, he grabbed my glass," I was like,
Then
"Oh,
somebody poised him. Oh yeah, I was
yeah." I
totally
was
in
like,
at that
okay.
moment.
I was like, all right, that's what happened. I was like, so he grabbed his glass, but then Benoit was like, well, nobody actually saw that, but you told us that, so we believe it. And when he sees him hand him the glass, pretty much, I felt like, okay, yep, it was him. We knew it was him. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's him, it's him, it's him, it's him, it's him. Again, now it's just figuring out why. For the life of me, I was like, why would he want Duke dead? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, the YouTuber. I was like,
Right.
why?
Yeah, it
Like
didn't make any sense. It
I
was a
didn't make
great
any.
misdirect. It
Yeah,
was a
that's why
great.
I was like, I don't get it. But when you find out why, I was like, oh, that makes sense,
So
because
right. So when we finally see that they have the proof, that
mhm,
they have the napkin that Andy wrote everything on,
mhm,
and your heart just drops when you see Braun Norton's character just light it on fire, and it's like that
mhm,
was the only thing they had left. And we should have known Blanc had something up his sleeve,
mhm.
but they didn't give it away at that moment. You
Mm-mm.
know, they didn't give away at that moment. And I'm like, well, where are we going to go from here? We can't just let the bad guy win. Are they really going to do
Yeah.
that? Because
Yeah.
then they do the reverse thing on you where it's, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate it sometimes where we get an ending that we can't figure it out.
Hmm.
That we can't figure it out. But with a murder mystery, you can't let the bad guy get away with it. Not in a
No.
murder mystery movie.
No.
So when at what point did you figure out what Helen was doing?
It took me,
Because she starts
man.
breaking
She
glass at
starts
every right.
breaking everything,
Well, let's
right?
back up a little bit because then at that point it's everyone's word and eyewitnesses, even though
Hmm.
things aren't in writing or recorded, eyewitnesses matter, especially if it's multiple. So she's trying to say you saw him burn it up, right? You
Hmm.
saw him confess to poisoning Duke. You saw these things, right? And everyone's being quiet because he's funding all their projects in one way or another, you know, or helping them out. So then you see her just breaking all this stuff, and then everyone else starts breaking stuff, and then that leads to, we'll get into that in a second here. But at what point did it click that you realized what she was doing?
It was funny because I went in almost, I guess, a stereotypical route. So when she's talking and Edward Norton's character Braun is going off and saying, "Oh, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove." He did the Denzel from Training Day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, "It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. You ain't got no evidence. What do you got?" Right? So I'm like, "Oh no, this isn't good." Because they destroyed the evidence.
Right.
And my brain, for whatever reason, was like, "Oh, it's fine. She's got the tape recorder in her sleeve." Because
Okay.
every time she was asking them, she goes, You saw it, right?" And she kept holding her hand up, but it was more of a gesture going back to the court case. But I
Right.
thought she had a tape recorder. So I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
"Oh, she's recording the conversation. He's admitting to everything. She's got her evidence." But Ryan, he did something different.
He did.
He reminded us that there's different forms of justice in the world.
Right.
There are different forms. And without any evidence, and Benoit had mentioned it, he goes, "All I can do, the only jurisdiction I have is I can find you the truth. If there's any evidence, we could present it to the police, but that's as far as I can go." Um, so when they lost the evidence, I was like, "Oh God, this is no good." Ooh, tape recorder. And then she starts destroying everything. And then I was like, "Okay, there's no tape recorder. What is happening?" And when she starts destroying things, I'm like, "Uh-oh, the Mona Lisa painting."
Right. Because everything else in the apartment, that's insurance.
Yep.
He's a multimillionaire, a billionaire.
Billionaire.
That's replaceable. But
Hmm.
the Mona Lisa is not replaceable. He would go bankrupt.
Yep. And that's when she started doing
Yeah.
that, because they kept, eh, we didn't mention this, but throughout the movie, anytime there was any sort of like vibration or flame in the room, there was a protective barrier that went completely over Mona
Yeah.
Lisa.
I mean, they were a little, Rian Johnson was a little bit deliberate with that because
Yes.
early on, I'm like, something's going to happen with that. We don't know
Yep.
what, but something. And then by the
It
time,
kept happening.
right.
It kept happening over and over again. I was like, "All right, they're gonna play into this." So when she starts destroying things, you start to hear the boom, the thing that protects it go up and down. I was like, "Oh, okay, it's the Mona Lisa. She's gonna take out the Mona Lisa because he didn't buy it. It's only a loan. Like he paid for them to bring it.
Right.
He paid for security. He just wanted to have it here for this party, this event." And once everything starts going crazy and everyone starts jumping in because they're letting their frustrations out because they've lied for so long, I was like, "Okay, this is what's happening." She
Right.
gets the lighter, sets it on fire, and I was
Right.
like,
Got
"Oh,
the
there it
clear,
is."
the little
Yep.
explosive thing. And
Yes, thank you.
the
Thank you.
clear.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I looked it up. Yeah.
Thank you.
The
Thank
clear
you.
and the explosive thing. And then it's like, okay, well, I can't get you for this crime, but I'm going to bankrupt you because without your money, you're done. And then everyone else
Hmm.
realizes, oh, well, we might be done too if
Hmm.
he's done. So after they join in, but then I don't know what it is. And obviously each character would have had to make that decision. They didn't know she was going to do that.
Mm-mm.
But eventually they just clicked like, you know, I don't know where I'm going to get the money from, but anything's better than having this guy have control over me.
Yeah.
You know, we just found out he killed somebody and we're willing to let that go just for the sake of our lives.
Hmm.
And them seeing her, and obviously each character is going to have a different mindset as to why they decided to join in. They didn't know she was gunning for the Mona Lisa to get destroyed, obviously, but
No.
you know, and at that point, it's like, oh, well, now you're broke, but now on top of that, you're going to get in trouble for killing Andy.
Yeah. Because she bankrupted him because the one mineral that he made, he put so much stock in. He's like, it's going to be energy for this and this. She used it to pretty much destroy the whole island. It's not safe. It's hazardous beyond belief. Destroyed the Mona Lisa. He's going to lose all his money. All of a sudden, everyone else around him he doesn't have the power anymore because he ruled with power. All that money made him powerful because he had control over all their careers. He goes, well, I can give you this, I can give you that. Birdie was even going to take the fall for him on something. I believe it had to do with the sweatshop. Like she was gonna, it wasn't her, it was him. She was willing to take the fall because she goes, oh, I just have to take this fall, it's okay, he's going to give me this, our stocks are going to go up, it's this and that. When they realize that he lost everything, he no longer had power. And they no longer saw the need to protect that man because they got nothing in return for it anymore. They were like, well, what's the point of protecting him now? He can't, we can gain nothing from him, So at that moment, they were just like, oh, I remember everything he said. I remember that. Like they started, you know what I mean? It was like, it's it. He lost it all.
And then they were finally ready to admit, no, it was Andy's idea the whole time, and so that was pretty cool. Any other thoughts on Glass Onion before we start wrapping things up here, Ricardo?
Again, I thought it was great. I want Rian Johnson to continue to do these types of movies.
Yeah, really cool.
I'm having fun just going online and seeing people create their own ensemble casts of people they want to see work with Rian Johnson, in another mystery. You know what I mean? I'll throw names. Let's throw Henry Cavill in there. Let's throw Aubrey Plaza. You know what I mean?
Just random people.
Let's just get everybody in here, man. Let's get Peter Dinklage. Let's get Peter Dinklage.
Oh, there
we
go.
You know what I mean? Let's get everybody. You know what I mean? Let's get LL Cool J. Why not? Get LL Cool J. What's LL Cool J doing?
So here's the thing. I believe this is all original, created by Johnson. I don't think it's based on anything.
Yeah, they're written by Rian Johnson. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I would like to get his thought process because another ensemble murder mystery franchise started up a few years ago as well. Not a few. Yeah. So the Agatha Christie ones, Murder in the Orient Express, and then most recently Death on the Nile, Kenneth Branagh. I believe he directs and stars in them. I believe he directs them, if I'm not mistaken. I know he stars.
See, those movies feel, and I don't mean it as a negative, those movies feel more like a stereotypical whodunit movie. It's very straightforward. It's like, hey, there's a body. We have to find out who did it. And by the end, we're going to give you your big reveal. That's it. Rian, he likes to switch it up. Again, it took over an hour. Movie's over 2 hours plus. So it took over an hour for something like that to happen. You know what I mean? And with the Rian, with Death of the Nile and movies like that, they're making everyone look shady. Like everyone looks shady.
Right. That and those.
Yeah,
the killer could be anybody.
They're like, but this one, it's kind of like he didn't really go out of his way to make people look shady. He just kind of presented characters, and they all could have a reason, but he didn't make anybody like super, like, again, like they all could be capable, but at the same time, I was like, I don't think they're capable. You know what I mean? But in the other ones, it's like, nah, that person's shady, that person's shady, that person's shady. Like it's very stereotypical, but Ryan's a little bit different. I like it.
Yeah. A little side note, as far as Death on the Nile goes, I noticed there was a change from the first movie to the second movie. And I feel like everybody in Death on the Nile, let's have a lot more fun with this movie.
Yeah.
The first one was very serious. Like it was
just,
and then the second one, there's like, whatever, just go out there, have some fun. It almost felt like a throwback to old school 20s and 30s movies when I was watching it.
Yeah. So, and again, I feel the same way about this sequel. I felt like it was not that the first one wasn't fun. The first one was a blast, but this one felt more fun. And like, again, everyone was just having, maybe it was the character choices,
right?
Maybe it was how colorful they were. Maybe it's who they represented and whatnot. But yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I like the stuff.
I haven't seen Knives Out in a while, but after I saw this, I wanted to go back and watch it again.
Yeah,
because it made me just say, oh, I want to see the progression, and I want to see, more of this. I want to see more of this. I hate saying that word universe because everything's a universe now, but
everything's a universe now. I love standalone movies. I miss
Yeah,
standalone movies. But hey, again, this is original work, like he's
right.
writing
It's a
these
sequel, but
stories.
it's based on an original movie. It's
Yeah,
a sequel
yeah.
to an original movie. So, all right, sounds good. Well, thank you, folks, for tuning in, for listening. That's our thoughts on Knives Out, Glass Onion, a Knives Out story. I did want to remind you, folks, if you enjoyed the Panel Bros, if you could give us a like, share, and subscribe, let us know your comments down below. We'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you for coming to the panel.
Thank you guys.